Thank you everyone for coming tonight, and welcome. Special welcome to Ying Ma and Anne-Marie McClelland, who are going to share with us about ePortfolio signature assignments toward student self-understanding. Thank you, and take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session today. We're really happy that you can join us. Thank you for being here today. My colleague, Dr. Ying Ma, and myself, Dr. Anne-Marie McClelland, are hosting today's session. We are faculty members in the Department of Educational Studies at KPU. Our presentation will take a little less than about 15 minutes, and then we'll have time afterward for questions, feedback, and discussion. I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that we work, study, and live in a region south of the Fraser River, which overlaps with the unceded traditional and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples. Okay, what have we been doing? I'm going to give you a super quick history on how we came to develop this signature assignment. Our first-year university transition course at KPU emphasizes a broader understanding of higher education, including the ways in which education can enhance students' quality of life, as well as the lives of those around them. Within this framework, the current ePortfolio assignment challenges students to reflect upon the relationships between their academic, personal, and future professional lives. The assignment has been successful in promoting student understanding and articulation of important career-relevant skills, also known as 21st century competencies. For example, critical thinking, leadership, creativity, etc. It's wonderful that students are able to identify and articulate important 21st century competencies that they are developing and honing. In fact, students have reported that, quote, "I'm very happy to have a place to see my work and be able to build on my skills going forward." And quote, "I like that I can transition my ePortfolio to fit my needs throughout my educational path and into my future career." The current ePortfolio assignment does exactly what it is intended to do. Students are able to digitally collect artifacts, critically examine their learnings, and reflect upon their experiences in meaningful ways, and especially in relation to future professional goals and aspirations. At the same time, we also believe that a deeper understanding of who I am as a person, as an individual, is core to self-development. This new signature ePortfolio assignment aims to go beyond the acquisition of content knowledge and 21st century skills acquisition as career preparation. It invites students to reflect on their past, their present, and their future lives toward the pursuit of self-understanding. My colleague, Dr. Ma, will now walk you through the rationale and design of this new ePortfolio signature assignment.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie, for your introduction and brief review of how this assignment has been developed over the time. And yes, why self-knowledge? Why self-knowing is important? So Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, believed that self-knowledge was a key to living a fulfilling life. He famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living, suggesting that individuals must take the time to reflect on their thoughts, actions, and motivations in order to fully understand themselves and their place in the world, to make a better sense of the world around us and develop a sense of agency and empowerment. We are encouraged to have a deeper understanding of ourselves in relationship with others. So how might we help our students, and indeed ourselves, to know thyself better? So aiming to go beyond the acquisition of subject matter knowledge and cognitive skills as vocational preparation, our ePortfolio signature assignment encourages students to recover their autobiographical voices. So autobiography focuses on each unique person. So we are different and similar in terms of race, class, cultural, gender, imprinted as these are by place, time, and circumstances, quoting Pienaar here. So while informed by homogenizing forces, each of us is distinctive. So what we hope to emphasize is that the personal is also social. It's also political, cultural, and ethical. So autobiography is an ethical, political, cultural, intellectual undertaking, emphasizing one's subjective presence and reconstruction in the complicated conversation. So to tell and retell our lived autobiographical stories, according to Clandini and Colony, we must break with the taken for granted in our lives. So we believe it is an effort to challenge the cruel marginalization, structured silence, and imposed invisibility, quoting Maxine Greene here. Autobiography invites us to reflect on our own life in juxtaposition of the past, present, and future toward the pursuit of self-knowledge in the presence of other living and non-living beings. So a highlight of praxis, this plot like signature assignment is designed for the first year university transition courses and aims to connect course activities to student self-understanding. So as my colleague Anne-Marie just demonstrated. So we will use the life journey timeline framework, and through a set of guiding questions, who are you? What is important to you? What are you passionate about? What do you hope to become? So students will create a developmental e-portfolio highlighting praxis. So according to Ted Oki, praxis means reflection in action, action in reflection. So the concept of praxis is characterized by the horizontal and conversational relationship between theory and practice through reflection. So students will build the knowledge, the theoretical knowledge they gained from teaching and classroom with their own lived experience. So it also incorporates an authentic self-portrait, so a space where students can release their imaginations and present their notions of self in very creative forms other than writing. So we believe it is an embodied and decolonial endeavor as well. So here is a detailed design we will share with you briefly. In part one, we will ask the students to identify course themes most meaningful to you. So identify the key themes or ideas that resonate with the students throughout the course. And the students will discuss how these course themes and ideas have impact their own understanding of themselves and others. So it's like building connections. From the lived curriculum to the from the planned curriculum to the lived curriculum. And part two, so the students expected to draw a personal journey timeline. So they're creating a timeline of their personal journey so far, starting maybe from their earliest memories and including any relevant life experiences or personal narratives. So for each entry, we suggest the student to include a vivid description of experience, which is significant to them over the years. And they are expected to reactivate the past and for them to understand the now better. Part three, so they're going to create a future self-portrait. So the students are expected to create a visual representation of their future self that reflect their passions and personal values. So as you know, there's an emphasis on the axiological values here, rather than the instrumental or managerial skills the students are going to master. So we kind of put emphasis on the axiological concerns in our education. So this could be painting, drawing, collage, video, audio demonstration of that can capture the student's vision and who they hope to become. So in a brief artistic statement, students are expected to explain the key elements of their self-portrait and how they reflect their own values, passions, and personal identity. So here is the grading rubrics and sample writing, and I will show you very briefly in the interest of time. And as you can see here, so we can have very detailed rubrics for each part and highlighting the axiological concerns and what their values are and what is a good and worthwhile life for them. And in this part is the second part, is a draw a personal journey timeline. So the students will reactivate some even small stories in their past, and they will see their past and reactivate the past from where they are right now and to have renewed understandings. And so in the three parts, so the students will release their imaginations. So using Maxine Green here, and the students can have use different artifacts like drawing, a painting, and taking a picture, or even telling a story and orally. They can like imagine a future not yet, imagine a future not instrumental, imagine a future beyond what the job market demands of them. So this is some samples we would like to share. So in the last, I will emphasize the purposes of this assignment. And the purposes of this assignment is to build connections between the course learnings and student lived experiences, and cultivate students' self-knowledge in juxtaposition of the past, the present, and the future. And also, this assignment will encourage the student to experiment with the e-portfolio practice to support student intellectual and ethical growth and mental well-being. And last but not least, they will encourage to, the assignment will encourage to incorporate students' identities and lived experience as part of understanding themselves in the world as future professionals, global citizens, and changing agents. So thank you so much for listening to us. And here is our Q&A section. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ying and Anne-Marie. What questions do you have about this really interesting opportunity for students to explore themselves through portfolios?
I'll ask a question if that's okay. Hi, Anne-Marie and Ying. So nice to see you both, and apologies because I came in a little bit late running from another meeting, but I love this approach. And you know, but I missed the context in which it's happening. So can you share a little bit about you know, the context? And I guess I'm curious about knowing what students' experiences have been so far, or whether if this is just kind of a planned activity. Maybe you don't know yet, but yeah.
Yes, so we have been doing what I call the sort of the traditional developmental e-portfolio for quite a number of years now. So I myself have been doing it for 6 years, where students identify 21st century competencies that they're developing. And we've been very successful with this, because what we want students to do is by the end of their undergrad academic journey, to be able to really understand what skills have I learned beyond simple content knowledge. And so we start them on the path in our first year transitions course. This is great. This is fantastic. One piece of that e-portfolio assignment has been for students to develop personal values. And I've noticed along the way, and increasingly, that students are extremely instrumental, and we're not seeing a deep reflection of who students are, what their identity is. So they're doing very well in terms of being able to identify skills that are going to help them in their next journey, particularly in terms of career preparation. But this reflection on exactly who I am at the core, which is so important to self-development, just hasn't been there. So I reached out to Ying, who is an expert in this field around identity, and said to her, you know, like, we're really missing something here. And she agreed with me. And I have to give most of the credit for this new assignment to Ying, because Ying is the one who really has been the person who developed the core of this assignment. So this is absolutely brand new. We're going to introduce it in the fall. And we were hoping in this session, or even after this session, so if somebody in this session wants to reach out to us beyond this session and talk one-on-one, that would be fantastic. We're looking for feedback. So if somebody has done something like this, or they have some other ideas for us, that would be fantastic to share with us. And if you have any questions along the way, if you want to touch base with us next fall, let us know how it's going. That would be fantastic as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. I hope you're going to be on site next week, because I would love to connect with you. I've been doing a lot of work in this realm myself, so I'd love
great.
to hear more about what you're planning, and I'm sure I'll learn a lot from you. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, let's hope we touch base. And yes, we will be there next week.
Hi, I'm Marie and Ying. How are you?
Hi. How are you?
I just put a question in the chat, but I think I sent it directly to you by accident. So I just was curious if how much traction have you gotten with students kind of expressing themselves outside of text using more UDL approaches? And also kind of what encouragement or how are you encouraging them to use this ePortfolio beyond the course, beyond this one-shot deal?
So most of our students have very little experience with ePortfolios. So it's a first-year transition course, and they have very little knowledge about ePortfolios. In fact, many of them haven't even heard of the term ePortfolio, which is quite surprising today. And at first, they're really reluctant. And I think one of the biggest reasons they're reluctant is the whole tech piece around ePortfolios. But they learn very quickly that the tech piece is actually very user-friendly. And we're lucky enough here at KPU to be using PebblePad, which is incredibly user-friendly. We find that students, so some students, we always give them a guideline, right? Here's a sample of a student from a previous semester who created this lovely ePortfolio. And you always see students who will tend to just follow what's presented to them. So, you know, it's like a double-edged sword. But we have found that students more and more, and as each year goes along, I think students are much more comfortable with technology than they were in the past. We're seeing video clips. We don't see so many audio clips, but we see video clips. We see more and more students who actually are comfortable showing themselves when they're talking, for example, about personal values, or they'll show video clips of themselves at work. Some students are incredibly creative, and they will actually create drawings or paintings. So we're getting a lot more, I would say, today than we received pre-COVID pandemic, playing with technology and the different media formats.
And I'm hoping you'll share some of those samples with
yes,
me so I can post them. Thank you.
Yes, we will. We just need the permission.
Yes. Thank you.
We have
You're
a question in the
Okay.
chat about your anticipation of accommodating privacy concerns if students may or may not want to share what they've created for the class with some of these personally connected information in the ePortfolio.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in our course, students' ePortfolio, we really emphasize that it's developmental. So we want them to be safe, to explore who they are and to explore the skills that they are developing and not be concerned about other people judging them. So as it currently stands, students, the only people who can see the ePortfolio is the student, him or herself, and the instructor. Nobody else sees the ePortfolio unless the student wants to share it with other people. So it's completely confidential. And at the end of the semester, the ePortfolio is given to the student, and we as instructors have no more access to the ePortfolio unless we get permission from the student. So, and it's such a good question, because some students have no problem sharing at all, and other students are really hesitant. And for many students, it's the first time they're looking inward, and it's hard to look inward, right? And then write about it or talk about it. So, so it's worked out really well that we have emphasized the confidential nature of their developmental ePortfolio.
Thank you so much for that.